Hey, what is up everybody? My name is Mythic and welcome to this video where we are going to be looking at a little bit of a walkthrough sort of a guide on how to kill Anduin on Mythic difficulty playing Necrolord Holy Paladin. The talents that I'm running are Light's Hammer, Judgment of Light, Rule of Law, Divine Purpose, Awakening, and Beacon of Virtue. I'm also running Blinding Light. It might be a good thing to run the Hodge talent, but that depends on your comp and if you're assigned to CC something. Otherwise, I am playing with Myroleth. It's pretty good. It's usually what you run for rating in general when you play Necrolord, and these are the conduits that I'm running. Now, things to notice before we go into it, I am going in the first Kingsmorn on that phase, and we do not have a priest, so we are single dispelling 2 of the ads at a time, which will definitely condition the way I'm playing this in a way that might not be the case for almost anybody else, because priests are so strong when you mass dispel things and you just pop Beacon of Virtue onto everything and heal very quickly. But alas, let's just get into it. We'll be talking about it as the fight goes on, and we might make some stops here and there. So we start with the Fleshcraft, build some Holy Power for the first instance of the Hopebreaker, and then we just pop Lightodon onto that, but that's just a little bit of padding. The most important thing here for the first couple seconds of the fight is the barrier that's coming up. I want to have Light's Hammer down for that. I want to have 5 Holy Power. I want to pre-use a Vanquisher's Hammer, and I want to pre-use a Rule of Law and apply Beacon of Virtue. So when that happens, I can just consume the charges, of course, by using Word of Glory and Light of the Martyr right after, and that barrier just disappears. Notice that I'm not using wings, and that's because, as I said, I'm going into the first Kingsmorn, so I need to have them because they will not be back. Now here we just play the Blasphemies, whatever way you are supposed to, and I do not like to consume this charge of not Lightodon, Rule of Law, because I kind of want to save it just to make the Intermission or the Kingsmorn as easy as possible. Here I pre-use Vanquisher's Hammer, so I have that up. I dispel something instantly, use the Rule of Law, apply the beacons, and just consume the charges while aiming towards the 2 hopes that we dispel first, so I can use or I can hit them both with Lightodon if possible. Now here we just dispel one immediately after, consume the other charge of Vanquisher's Hammer, usually build 3 Holy Power by using Hammer of Wrath, and otherwise these guys usually fall over for us, but if you have time you could use another Beacon of Virtue onto those 2 guys, otherwise they just get healed up pretty quickly. Now as we come out here, got a little bit of a breather room, nothing too crazy that I do here, it's just a matter of waiting for the next barrier, but something that I like to do is just proccing the 2 set because I usually have it up, it's pretty niche. And then before this next Hopebreaker, I use Beacon of Virtue and just consume the 2 set. A little bit of healing there. But usually this is not a point where you would really be required to do anything in particular. Now before the barrier comes down, I would like to get as much cooldown reduction onto my wings. And then use the Fleshcraft as soon as possible as well. Drop the Light's Hammer as I will do in a moment. Here's the Fleshcraft, here's the Light's Hammer. And then before the barrier actually drops, use Debo, ideally late, so that it also lines up with the Hopebreaker. Pop wings if you have them, throw the Vanquisher's Hammer if you have it, and you should have it because you should not use it before this, and then you just consume the charges, stay in the barrier, and heal everybody up. Ideally, you want to be consuming those Rule of Law charges if you have them up. Usually, I don't think I have them, but if you have them, always use them. It's a very good thing in this scenario, especially because you're also stocked up. The Body of Mastery is pretty high. And then, yeah, that's the first phase done. I am going to go ahead and sit and just get some mana. Usually, I end up this phase around 70% mana, but I basically literally told you everything that I'm going through when I'm doing this fight, all the little steps throughout the fight where I am doing something in particular and not just following a rotation. I figured that could be interesting to have these little things to kind of min-max your gameplay. Otherwise, you can go ahead through it like just following a normal rotation like any other Holy Paladin. The thing is, when you play Beacon of Virtue, it's pretty fun to try and min-max every single use of Beacon of Virtue throughout the fight. It's just something I like to do. Now, during the intermissions, it's just a matter of doing damage to the Remnant, while dodging the swords, of course, although they are being baited. And then whenever the Monster Soul is doing the damage, you of course swap to it, just in case something happens, you don't want to be wiping. When it comes to healing on this phase, I do not really stress it out too much. I really just focus on resetting those wings and using them together with the Vanquisher's Hammer as much as possible for the sake of damage. Whenever the rate starts falling low, I would just like drop Beacon of Virtue and consume some of the charges. Usually don't pay too much attention here, sorry there's like a fly on my face, to the procs of Marats here. I think it's pretty much a waste of mana in many cases because we're usually topped off over here. But if you see a value for it, of course go ahead and use it. Now using Shield of Righteous during this phase is good because of course, the damage on the Remnant will be increased. So even though if it's a single target, you will still be doing more than just padding some healing. That's not necessary. So if you can line up Shield of the Righteous together with hitting all the small adds, for the sake of padding, is going to be pretty good. Otherwise, of course, keep Consecration on CD. A lot of damage on the adds as well as on the Remnant. And now as we come out, I have Fleshcraft up, so I want to consume that for the sake of getting the Mirrorlet buffs, as well as, of course, to get the defensive value out of it. And here we just want to be killing all the reflections. This is the way we're doing it. We kill 3 reflections, and then we will go into the second Kingsmore for us, group 1. So here, nothing special, we just kill them off. I want to be resetting wings. I used wings during the intermission, so in case you use them late for whatever reason, just here's the perfect chance to reset them. Nothing's gonna be going on besides 2 hope breakers, to which usually they would not be a problem. And here I've been assigned to Hot's the thing, that's nothing special. Now before going into the phase again, I want to build 5 Holy Power. That's something I didn't mention before, but you want to build 5 Holy Power. You want to pre-use a charge of Vanquisher's Hammer, maybe just for the sake of saving that GCD, and then as soon as you get in, dispel, use Rule of Law, apply the Beacon of Virtue, pop wings, and then consume the charges of Vanquisher's Hammer. Ideally aiming towards the both the hopes, so you can hit them both with Light of Dawn. If that's not possible, you will definitely be quite slower here. Usually here I do get to use a second charge or a second have a second use of Beacon of Virtue, and otherwise the phase is also quick enough because we also have a Prop Paladin with us, so the off healing is pretty good. Otherwise, as soon as we come out here, there's usually a barrier, and what I will do here is just proc the 2 set, use Beacon of Virtue, and try and use the 2 set, but usually the barrier is healed up pretty quickly. That's a way of contributing a little bit to it. Usually when you come out on that point, I've heard that people don't have the barrier that progressed. It's usually taking a lot longer, but it's gonna depend on many things, so that's the way I do it. Now, coming up, we're going to have another barrier, and there's going to be a couple Wicked Stars happening before that, so I'm going to be using Fleshcraft, but I don't want to use it right off the bat because I could get the star and I could have to cancel the cast. Otherwise, you just want to be using the Fleshcraft mainly, of course, for the buffs you get from it, but there's a defensive value as well. As the barrier comes down, you want to use Debo, because, by the way, I didn't say before, but I am using the Devotional Conduit that increases my Light of Dawn healing by 66%, I think it is, for 3 charges after using Devo. So that lines up pretty well with all the barriers. I'm using 2 Devos on 2 barriers and 1 Devo on the last phase. So that's why, obviously, the barrier also does damage, and there's a Hope Breaker coming after as the barrier drops. So yeah, the barrier drops, use Devo, of course, use your personal ideally. Pre-use Vanquisher's Hammer if you can. Wings should be up. If you don't have them, try and reset them. And don't use them before the barrier comes down, of course. And then, yeah, just consume the charges of Vanquisher's Hammer. Do all the healing you need to do. And that's just going to be a matter of you being agile with the way you play this spec when you play Necro. Nothing special, nothing strategic to talk about there. It's just a matter of going through your rotation in that sense. But yeah, now that we've done the barrier, our job is pretty much done. We just clear out the reflections. We will go down into the second intermission, where the same thing that we did under the first one is going to happen. Want to be min-maxing damage, want to be trying to reset those wings as much as possible so that you can then use the wings or keep on using Hammers of Wrath, but mainly use the wings together with the Vanquisher's Hammer for geeky damage onto the Remnant, keeping that Consecration down. You can, if you get it here, actually, no, I don't get to use Fleshcraft here. I just used it before, so I will use Fleshcraft as we come out of the intermission. But otherwise, yeah, just a lot of damage here onto the Remnant and just try not to die. Healing usually will be very safe unless you screwed up on the energy and you don't get hit by the Swirlies. But whenever required, you just pop a Beacon of Virtue and then you just try and consume some charges of the Vanquisher's Hammer and just follow a normal healing rotation. Nothing special here, not much setup, nothing that I feel like I need to talk about. Just a matter of min-maxing your own damage and a matter of knowing when you should really be healing. Otherwise, you might even be better off to not use the stacks of Marats because it is mana, and although the mana is fine here, in some scenarios it will not be. Now, in case I used a lot more mana, I would usually be drinking as soon as the phase 3 starts, before the boss comes out of the middle of the room. But in case I'm fine with mana, I see that I'm not gonna be needing anymore. I would rather just not, and then just pop Fleshcraft early and then DPS before the boss does the big AoE Hopebreaker. But yeah, here we go. We go into the last phase. I'll just use the Fleshcraft to make sure I get the buffs from it. And then he's going to come out of the mill. You can still DPS here, of course. If you were drinking, you would be doing 0 damage here. And the Hopebreaker will happen. I'm not going to be doing anything on the Hopebreaker besides just dropping Light's Hammer, popping Beacon of Virtue, consuming Vanquisher's Hammer, and then doing some healing. But we have stuff allocated for that. We have a Devo, I believe, and we have a Barrier as well. I might be tripping, I don't know. But anyways, here we go, and we get the debuffs. We just pre-bubble, and both Holy Paladins we're stacking. That's something you can have used. You can clear some of those debuffs with immunities. Otherwise, you can play the phase in many other ways. This is like tricky, but it's also pretty easy. We wiped on this phase plenty of times, and it was very frustrating because it was just a matter of soaking. But healing on this phase is very easy so long as you don't fuck up and you don't miss any soaks. It's just a matter of keeping up with the normal rotation, using Beacon of Virtue whenever it's up, whenever you have some healing to follow it up with, of course. Wings together with Vanquisher's Hammer. Good old same mode, just healing normally. Nothing special, nothing you really have to be looking forward to here, except for the second Hopebreaker, which in this case I have Devo for, and we also have all the healers up, so it's going to be absolutely easy. And at this point, we know the boss is dead. It's the first time we get to this phase where like we haven't fucked up and we haven't messed up a soak. So pretty much we know it's dead. There's nothing that can go wrong besides like fucking up the debuffs coming up. So we're just going to be spreading off of those, going out of melee so we do not blow up and kill everybody. And otherwise, yeah, the boss at this point is dead. If you manage to get to this phase and the boss is low enough and then you don't fuck up the soaks or clearing the debuffs, the boss is pretty much dead. You only get one set of the debuffs. You don't even have to heal through most of them. And the second one should almost be ignored if you have the damage for it. So that's it, guys. I hope you enjoyed the video. Hope you find it useful. If you have any questions, drop them on the comments below. And I'm also streaming on twitch.tv/MidwayEU. So if you want to watch me play live on Raids or Mythic Plus, please go ahead, drop a follow, and I'll see you guys there. So anyways, bye-bye. I'll see you on the next one.